Hi guys, today we're going to talk about a 2015 thriller drama movie, Landmine Goes Click. Spoilers ahead. Let's begin. Alicia, Chris, and Daniel are traveling through Georgia. When Daniel leaves the car, Chris asks Alicia about telling Daniel what they did, as they both slept together. He thinks they should tell Daniel and apologize to him. Alicia believes Daniel will get angry with her because she is his girlfriend and they are about to get married. She thinks it's not a good idea to tell him about any of this and asks Chris not to speak of it in front of Daniel. Daniel takes them through a plane and tells them stories about the place, that it was a war zone where tanks, artillery, and landmines were common. He leads them on the journey and takes them to a ridge. Upon reaching there, as they enjoy the sight, Daniel suddenly asks to marry him and Alicia. She hesitates, but he thinks it would be a great experience to perform it in front of his friend. Only at Daniel's request, Chris starts the ceremony but then thinks it's a weird idea, so he does not continue. At night, when they all sit around the bonfire, Daniel feels something is bothering Chris. He tries to ask him, but Chris doesn't say anything and just says he is happy for both of them. Both Daniel and Alicia assure him that he won't be left out even after they get married. Alicia gets up to go to sleep, but before they go, Chris completes the ceremony and asks Daniel to kiss her. They thank him and go inside the camp. The next morning, when Chris wakes up, he sees a man stealing their stuff. He grabs him and shouts at him, but the man says he is a friend of Alicia and Daniel. Upon hearing the two of them fighting, Daniel and Alicia come and confirm that he is one of their friends and introduce him to Chris. Davey brings the camera and asks them to pose for a picture. As they take their positions, Chris accidentally steps on a mine. Daniel realizes the situation and instructs him to stay there without making a move. Chris doesn't believe it and thinks they are only messing with him, but Daniel shows him a mine. As Chris gets scared, they calm him down and assure him that they will find a way to help him out. Davey says he will have to go find help but, in the meantime, asks everyone else to stay away from Chris if they don't want to get hurt in case it explodes. When he leaves, Daniel asks Alicia to go behind the rock to ensure her safety. She hesitates, but as he keeps insisting, she agrees and asks Daniel to come with her. He refuses and says he will stay there with Chris, who seems worried. Chris tries to calm him down and says he will be fine and will attend his wedding as his best man. Daniel receives a signal and calls to ask for help. He talks on the phone and asks the other person to trace his call and bring help to rescue Chris. After the call, he talks to Alicia and tells her that the person he was talking to has all the equipment they need but isn't going to send it. Alicia gets confused and asks again, and Daniel says they don't help prostitutes. Alicia realizes he knows the truth about her and Chris. She asks Chris about this, and he admits that he told Daniel everything about them. She tries to talk to Daniel and ask him to call for help again, but he refuses and tells her there was never a signal to begin with, and he was just faking it, but couldn't. She tries to explain it to him. Daniel goes to Chris and tells him that he didn't step on the mine by mistake, but it was Daniel who planned all of this because he knew exactly where the mines were. He admits that he left it there to take revenge on him. Then he gives a shovel to Alicia and asks her to dig a trench if she wants to save him. Daniel further tells him that he planned this with Davey, and now digging a hole is their only way out. Chris thinks he is lying, but Daniel pulls a pin out of the ground and explains that without the pin, the mine will 100% explode. Alicia asks for his mercy, but he doesn't care. Chris apologizes to him, but Daniel shouts at him for sleeping with Alicia. Chris asks for the pin, but Daniel throws it down the mountain. Alicia tries to stop him and says that it's her fault, but Daniel doesn't change his mind and leaves. Chris asks Alicia to stay away from him. Alicia screams in disbelief, and Chris asks her to go behind the rock so she can be safe in case the mine explodes. As they're trying to figure out how to get out of this situation, Daniel goes to Davey and asks him to leave. Davey thinks they plan to watch them for some time and then help them out, but Daniel asks him to leave and let them figure it out by themselves. Alicia goes and brings the pin back. She tries to plug it in, but it gets stuck, and she cannot pull it out. Chris panics and asks her if the pin is plugged in so he can step out, but she stops him from doing it because the pin does not work. He asks her to stay away and he will step out, but she does not let him. She sets up a smoke signal, hoping someone will see it and come to their rescue. As the pin doesn't work, she says she has to dig, as Daniel said. As she is digging, a man named Elia shows up with his dog, attacking Chris. When Alicia tries to keep the dog away with the help of the shovel, Elia points a gun at them. Alicia explains the situation to him, but as she's digging a hole, Elia thinks they have murdered someone and buried the body there. He points the gun at Chris and asks him to move because he thinks they are lying to him about the mine. When he fires and Chris still stands there, he realizes they're telling the truth. She tells him how she plans to dig a hole so Chris can jump. Elia makes fun of her idea but agrees to help her. He throws a stone at Chris to further verify that they are telling the truth. Chris and Alicia yell at him, but he says he constantly visits the place and has never heard of anything like that. He asks about what happened, and Alicia tells him that her boyfriend set this up. Chris asks her not to tell him the whole story, but Elia insists on knowing. Alicia tells him what happened. After listening to the story, Elia shames her for doing this to her boyfriend. Elia finally agrees to help but asks what he will get in return. They let him take whatever he wants. He searches their bags for anything valuable and tries to take advantage of her, but Chris stops him and offers all his money and credit cards for his help. Elia refuses to take the money, grabs Alicia again, and asks her to undress. As Alicia goes to the tent, he asks her to do it in front of him. Chris tries to threaten him by saying his friends will come back with help, but Elia knows he is just trying to fool him because if his friends were coming, they would not ask for his help. Alicia agrees to give him whatever he wants. Chris gets upset and tries to step off the mine because he thinks it won't explode in the presence of the pin. Alicia stops him and confesses that she lied about the pin because he was freaking out, and she wanted to help. She asks Elia to start digging. He asks her to further explain how she wants the hole to be dug. He doesn't want to help them but just wants to take advantage of the situation, so he keeps messing with them. He receives a call on his radio. Alicia and Chris both ask him to let them make a call for help, but again he asks for a favor in return. She requests to use the radio for calls, and she will do as he says. He takes her underwear and throws it away, then asks her to bring it back, but she has to walk like a dog if she needs his help. Alicia does not accept his condition and starts to dig, but she realizes she won't be able to do it, so she agrees to do as he says. She starts to walk, and when she brings it back, he asks her to do it again because she used her hands instead of taking it in her mouth, just like a dog. She does as he says, and he gives her the radio to make a call. She calls, but the other person does not know English. She tries to explain, but they don't understand, and to translate, they need Elia's help again. He again asks her to remove another piece of her clothing. Alicia does not accept and starts to dig. They receive another call, and Elia asks Alicia to tell them that he is fine and they don't need their help. She agrees, and he translates the line, but they don't understand. For translating again, he asks for another favor. Alicia cries, and Chris asks her to calm down. He distracts Elia and tells Alicia to run. Elia chases after her, and after a while, Chris hears her screaming for help. He tries to grab the gun, and when Elia comes back with her, Chris points the gun at him. But Elia uses Alicia as his shield and asks him to shoot. Then he hurts Alicia with his knife and forces himself on her in front of Chris. She cries for help, but Chris cannot do anything other than stand there helplessly. After a while, Alicia gets hold of the knife, and Chris tells her to come to him. Chris is ready to shoot Elia, but the dog pushes him. Chris accidentally shoots Alicia and is knocked out by the dog. The mine didn't explode because it was fake. Elia leaves them there, and Chris cries for help with Alicia in his arms. The scene cuts to a woman and her daughter talking in the Georgian language. Chris comes to their home and asks for help, saying that his car ran out of gas. He asks them for a map to find his way. The girl, Liga, says she can give him a printout from her computer. Her mother, Tanya, introduces herself and her daughter to him and invites him in. Once inside, he asks for a restaurant nearby so he can find something to eat, but the women say there are no restaurants in the area. So, Liga invites him for lunch with them. Chris joins them and praises them for inviting him to lunch. Elia comes back because it was his home where Chris had come to ask for help. When Chris introduces himself to him, Elia is shocked. Tanya thinks they both know each other, but Chris denies it and says he never met him before. Elia asks Chris to come with him, and he will help him find his way. Chris says to let him finish his meal first. Elia does not agree, but his wife scolds him for his behavior with the guest. Chris invites him to join as well, but he refuses. He asks Tanya for some more food, but Elia stops her from bringing it and takes him out. Before leaving, Chris admires Liga and tries to talk to her, but Elia insists on leaving. When they come out of the house, he asks Chris to leave his family out of this and meet him later to settle the dispute. Chris agrees and leaves their house. After his departure, Elia runs back to the house. His wife serves him the meal and tries to talk to him, but he seems disturbed and does not respond. He gets worried about his family because he thinks Chris might try to hurt them. As he sits there thinking, he hears his dog barking and looks around but cannot see anyone. Meanwhile, Chris comes to their door again with the injured dog and tells them it was hit by a vehicle and he has brought it back. When Elia comes back and sees Chris there, he pulls out his gun and tries to shoot Chris. Chris says he knows it's not loaded and then shoots Elia with his pistol. His wife and daughter come outside, and Chris says he just wanted to help their dog, but Elia tried to shoot him, so he shot Elia in self-defense. His wife asks Chris to put the gun away, and she will do whatever he says. He asks them to get Elia inside. He abuses Tanya, and Elia gets angry and shouts at him. When Tanya and Liga take Elia inside, Chris asks Tanya to tie her mother up. Tanya offers him money to leave, but he doesn't accept. He asks Liga again to tie her mom's hands. When she hesitates, he fires at the mirror and forces her to do so. Elia asks Chris to kill him, but Chris asks Elia to tell his wife and daughter what he did. Elia apologizes and blames it on his drinking problems. Chris mocks him and says if drinking was to blame, then he should have a drink to make it fair play. After the drink, Chris grabs Liga and tells her to take off her underwear, as Elia did to Alicia. When she hesitates, he threatens to shoot her mother. Liga does as he says, but he throws it away and asks her to bring it back to him like a dog. When she brings it back, he throws it near Elia and asks her to bring it back with her mouth. He puts it in Elia's mouth and commands him not to drop it, otherwise he will shoot his daughter. Elia tries to speak, but Chris points the gun at Liga and forces him to put it back in his mouth and stay away. He grabs Liga's neck and chokes her while telling the story of Alicia and how he managed to bring her from the mountain, but she lost too much blood and died. He forces Liga to look into her father's eyes because he wants to hurt Elia the same way Elia hurt him and Alicia. He drinks again and proceeds to play Russian roulette with her, and she has to undress every time he pulls the trigger. Liga cries, but Chris doesn't care, and Tanya tries to attack him but fails. Elia begs him to leave her and tries to get up, but he cannot due to a bullet in his leg. Elia again begs him to leave his daughter and says he will do whatever Chris wants, but Chris orders him to ask his daughter to undress. They all beg and try to stop him, but he doesn't listen. Then he pulls the trigger, and Liga gets shot. Chris is shocked. He did not plan to kill her so soon or even plan to kill her at all. He sits in the corner in disbelief while Elia and his wife cry for their daughter. This is where the movie ends. Thank you for watching.